Hey students, in our last lecture of business research methods, we have discussed about hypothesis testing. We have also discussed that in which functions or for which performing which activities the hypothesis testing can be used. In this lecture, we will discuss more about hypothesis testing. So first we'll discuss the process of hypothesis testing. Means this is the process or procedure, the steps in hypothesis testing process. So first step is hypothesis derivation. So first thing that a researcher needs to do is derive the hypothesis. Hypothesis is derived on the basis of some past experiments, research or theories. So or sometimes the hypothesis can also be derived on the basis of some suggestions, some guess. So hypothesis is derived. So first step is to derive hypothesis, as we have discussed many examples. So we have discussed one of the examples that the salary of individuals depends on the education level. So one hypothesis could be that the salary of, we have discussed this earlier as well, that salary of those mean of salary of those who have education up to 10th is equal to the salary of mean of salary of those who have education up to 10 plus 2. So this could be one type of hypothesis, and this could be derived on the basis of some past theories, some experiments, some researches, that as the education level increases the salary may increase. So hypothesis derivation, and hypothesis should be specific. It should be very specific. It should not be vague or ambiguous. One thing is very much clear through hypothesis, that what we are actually trying to find out, what are the actual variables, what are the subgroups that we are trying to find the relationship between. Then the second step is sample is obtained and relevant variables are measured. So after derivation of hypothesis, a sample from the population is obtained and then relevant variables are measured. So as I have discussed, we have been discussing one example. If we take example of this salary and education level, so we take sample and then we calculate the mean of those individuals who are qualified up to 10th, and we take the mean of salary of those individuals who are educated up to 10 plus 2. So these variables are measured. Then measured value is compared with the value stated in the hypothesis. So then these values are compared, whether those are same or those are different according to our hypothesis. If the value is consistent with the hypothesis, then it is supported, otherwise not supported. So if these values are according to our hypothesis, if our null hypothesis is that these values are equal, then, and we find after measurement that these values are equal, then it is supported, otherwise it is not supported. We will discuss more about null hypothesis in our next slides. So first we will discuss quality of good hypothesis. What should be the qualities in a good hypothesis? What features or characteristics should be there in a good hypothesis? Should form the starting point of investigation. So a good hypothesis forms the starting point of an investigation. We understand that from where we need to start, what we need to do. So as we had been taking the example, so in case of our example of salary and education level, then on the basis of hypothesis we can understand that okay, now we need to find those individuals who are qualified up to 10th, and we also need to find those individuals who are qualified up to 10 plus 2. We need to find their salaries, and then we need to measure their mean. So we know on the basis of hypothesis that from where we need to start and in which direction our research must go. Then hypothesis should be verifiable and testable. As I have discussed that we are talking about salary. So salary or age or height or length, these are some aspects or variables that can be verified or tested. So whatever we take in a hypothesis, whatever variables taken in a hypothesis or a hypothesis should be testable and verifiable. we should have a hypothesis that can be verified on the basis of some experiments and researches, and the variables should be, we should be able to verify, test those variables that we specify in our hypothesis. So variables should be testable, and the hypothesis should be verifiable and testable. The next is specific, as we have been discussing one example. So our hypothesis should be very specific. It should not be vague. We must know that what we are going to find, what we are going to actually calculate, and on what basis we would be trying to find the difference, what we are actually, which type of relationship we are actually trying to establish. So the hypothesis should be specific, and it should be simple as well. As in this example, the hypothesis is simple, that we are trying to find out the mean of salaries of those who are qualified up to 10th and those who are qualified up to 10 plus 2. This is simple. Should identify dependent and independent variables. If there are some dependent and independent variables, then the hypothesis, a good hypothesis, should identify those variables as well. In this example, we say that salary is dependent on the education level. So we should be able to identify that which variables are independent and which variables are dependent. So according to this example, salary is dependent on the education level. And last is conceptual clarity. So whatever hypothesis is being formed, it should be based on certain concepts that has been there. It should be based on certain theories, and the researcher should have the conceptual clarity, and that conceptual clarity should be visible in that hypothesis, that these are the two factors, or these are the three factors, or these are the variables, or these are the subgroups between which the researcher is trying to find out the relationship. Next, we'll talk about null and alternative hypothesis. This is something very important, and a researcher must understand these concepts very clearly. So what it said, null hypothesis assumes that the value of two variables is equal. As we have been discussing so many examples, we can discuss some more examples. So null means no value. So we have discussed that hypothesis is an assumption. And in null hypothesis, we assume that any two variables are equal. So that is the null hypothesis. In our this example of education level and salary, we assume that null hypothesis. In null hypothesis, we assume that the mean of salary of those educated up to 10th is equal to the mean of salary of those who are educated up to 10 plus 2. So this is null hypothesis. This hypothesis always says that two variables are equal, while in alternative hypothesis it is assumed that the values are not equal. So in alternative hypothesis, we say that these values are not equal. According to alternate hypothesis, the salary, mean of salary of those who are educated up to 10th is not equal to the mean of salary of those who are educated up to 10 plus 2. So null hypothesis, salaries are equal, means of salaries are equal, and null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis, mean of salaries is not equal. So these are two hypotheses, null and alternate. Null hypothesis is represented by H0, while alternative hypothesis is represented by H1. So we write a null hypothesis and then we write alternative hypothesis. So an example that how we write these null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, this is another example. This is not about two subgroups, this is about one group and its assumption. So we have assumed that average height of a building, average height of buildings in an area is equal to 3 meter. So null hypothesis, mean is equal to 3, and alternative hypothesis, mean is not equal to 3. this sign mu is used for mean. So null hypothesis, mean is equal to 3, and null hypothesis, mean is not equal to 3. We have written alternative hypothesis in sentence form as well. The average height of buildings is not equal to 3 meter, and null hypothesis, the average height of buildings is equal to 3 meter. So this is how we write null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, and then we go ahead for comparison of these hypotheses on the basis of the data or sample that we have collected, and then we find whether our null hypothesis is correct, or it is supported, or it is not supported. I'll leave this lecture with one question for which the answer will be discussed in my next lecture. So it's just a question that this is the hypothesis that average of height of buildings is equal to 3 meter. This is our null hypothesis. And average of height of buildings is not equal to 3 meter. This is our alternative hypothesis. Now we take sample, we collect data, maybe around 300 houses. We collect data from 300 buildings, and we find that the mean of those buildings or average height of those buildings is 3.1 meter or 2.9 meter. Then what would happen? Should we accept, or we assume that our null hypothesis is supported, or should we assume that this null hypothesis is not supported? It is 3 as according to our assumption, and according to our calculation it is 3.1. So should we assume, should we take that 3.1 is almost equal to 3, or 2.9 is almost equal to 3, or should we believe that no, 3.1 is far away from 3, so it should not be assumed supported? So should we think that null hypothesis is correct, or should we say that null hypothesis is not correct, means null hypothesis accepted or rejected if it is 3.1 or 2.9? This is the question, and we'll discuss the answer of this question in our next lecture. Thank you.